All right, then let's begin. I think this is being recorded, so people might watch later pieces as they free or as they wish. So, hi everybody. Welcome to What's New and What to Expect in TestStand. My name is Carlos Gonzalez, and I am the product manager for TestStand. Just let me take a moment to recognize Marshall Reed Williams. She became the first African American woman to earn a PhD in computer science in the USA. I think having females in our area expertise on this is fantastic. I think they have another perspective and truly encourage this. So, yeah, we kudos for Marsha. Now, let's go into what's new in TestStand 2021, the latest release. And feel free to post questions in the chat. I'm going to look at them if you have some. So, what we did in TestStand 2021, we did an overhaul of the suite loop step. So, you might wonder what is it if you don't know about it. A suite loop step allows you to define a set of test vectors or parameters and a block of tests to loop over. As the suite goes through the parameters, the current values are stored in local variables that you can use later in a module, in module calls or other steps. So it kind of facilitates iterating through them and you can define them. So we're going to look at that. When configuring a with loop step, once you specify a parameter, TestStand will automatically create variables and fill the appropriate fields, as you can see in this slide. We're going to look at demo later so you can see this in action. You have more control on how parameters interact. They can work in parallel or they can be nested. You can also specify the strategy type. You can choose a static, where you specify constant values, or you can select dynamic, where the values are controlled by expressions. We now have a table view for better interaction with test vectors. And yeah, this is nice because you can select, oh, I want to just exercise this like item because you want to debug or understand the behavior better. And you can now import and export parameter and test vector data using CSV files. So let's look at a demo of this. I have TestStand here, the latest release open, and I'm gonna drop suite loop step in here. Okay, that's done, and I'm just gonna add a parameter here. I'm gonna call this current. You can see local variable was created automatically, and the fields were appropriately filled like this one. Now, as you can choose dynamic, you can set expressions. Let's go with static. Let's say this value starts at 0.01, let's 0.1, and step for the values 0.01. Let's configure. Let's add another one. Let's call this voltage. And then let's say this one starts at 1, and okay, through one value each. So as you can see, you have for voltage 10 different values, and for current you have again 10 different values. And they are today or now working in parallel. So if we look at the table view, that means basically as we iterate through the values, we just want to pick one each. And that's about it. That's because they're working in parallel. But you can say, no, I want this voltage to be nested. And then I'm going to refresh the table. As you can see, when they are nested, it means that for each value of current, I'm going to go through one value of voltage until I process all of them. That will give you 100 iterations. And as I mentioned, you can say, I want to just test this because I want to debug, or I want to see specific behaviors, and so on and so forth. So that's the demo. You want to see more details, I encourage you to kind of try the with loop step by yourself. All right. As usual, you can see what's new in the release notes, which also include references to what was introduced in previous versions of TestStand. Before moving on, are there any questions? Let me see the chat. That's good. No more nested loops. Yes, you can do import export CSV. Do other steps have variable to creation, or use this one at least for now? All right. Anyway, don't hesitate to kind of reach out to me if you have further questions or you want more details. I'm totally always available. Okay, now let's go to the second side of the presentation, which is the test and roadmap. So let's look at what features and capabilities might be introduced in the future for TestStand. Before we go into those details, I would like to clarify that this is forward-looking kind of statements. Things change, and things that we say we're gonna do might not be in a specific version of TestStand. But this is, to our best of knowledge, this is the direction as of today. So let's begin with that. And yes, if you have any more questions, please put in the chat or reach out to me. All right. We are working on improvements to the Python adapter. We are enhancing Python debugging by adding the capability to step into Python code directly from TestStand, in this case using Visual Studio Code. We are working on better configuration support for base methods and attributes for a given Python class. Today, when you select, let's say, a child class, you can only see those child methods or properties, but none of the parents. So we're fixing that. And we're also working on support for import modules that utilize relative imports. Today, TestStand just generates an error. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Something I would like to mention, I would like to make an offer or stand this idea that as we go through features and capabilities, we have proofs of concepts, we have prototypes, and we like people to try out and let us know what they think about it, so we can basically not just wait until it's done and we believe we are done to kind of gather feedback. We want to do that early as possible. So if you would like to participate on any of these kind of feature capabilities, let me know. I can add you to the list and we can start that conversation where you can access early or have access to early releases, well, early drops of TestStand to kind of try this by yourself. All right. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. You might think this is a beta tester program. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let me see one question. I would be great if test and UI appearance can be switched to all style or something easier to spot menus and steps. It's hard to get steps and other menu selections from the W10 appearance. Yes. Let me kind of gather that feedback. I'm gonna send it to the R&D team as we explore improvements. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We are working on replacing the test and com API with a new one based on gRPC. This will allow to start and control execution remotely. It is my understanding that we can provide access, or at least to an early drop of gRPC by the end of the year. And it is something, if you would like to try, please let me know. This new API will allow you to locally or remotely start executions, query what is the state of execution, get results, and so on and so forth. We are thinking on making this available in at least at the beginning, in a private repository or Git, but it's our intention to make this public so the community can contribute and enhance this new API for TestStand. We're also considering, and that's why I want your feedback on the API, to have wrappers in the following languages: .NET, LabVIEW, JavaScript, Python. Today, what we have ready, or that will be ready, is use a raw API, but no wrappers for those languages. It is my understanding that creating those wrappers is not that complex, but anyway, it's something I would like to gather feedback. Let me see. When will TestStand introduce a Dart term? Oh, that's on the slides. I'll talk a little later. Okay. Zoom up for Dart team. Okay, as part of this new API, we are also thinking or looking into improve user management, integrating with Windows Active Directory for user management to define access roles like operator, technicians, and administrator. Today, you have that definition in TestStand, but that's about it. If you want like more control, like OS support, today it's not possible. So we're looking into this integration to Active Directory to basically dictate or use what is there. Another thing we are working on is on supporting modern browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge for HTML-based reports displaying. Today we understand that Internet Explorer is basically in the at the end of its life cycle. Microsoft has deprecated that, and we are working towards having no longer that dependency, so you can open Chrome and see those TestStand reports and no longer rely on Internet Explorer being present. So that's something that is on the roadmap. We're working on it. Let me see. Okay, this is something that, to talk about it, that the mode is under consideration among other usability enhancements. We look at the exchange candidates, and then we incorporate them. So here you have ideas you would like. I encourage you to go and put it in the idea exchange and let the community vote things that we consider for further engagements. Another thing that we're working on is support for UTF-8. We understand as we create operator interfaces, some of them need to go to different countries and they might have a different language, and that's why it's important that we provide this support so those deployment or operator interface can be properly localized in the language that people is working on them. Let me see if there are other questions here. Okay, no, sounds good here. Try a reload. Okay. Okay. I don't. I think the fix or the audio has been fixed, so I'm gonna continue. Something we are looking into the future is new UI controls built on modern web technology. That's our plan for replacing our ActiveX controls, basically with web-based ones. This will allow you the creation of operator interfaces for local or remote access, a tester for control and monitoring. So think about that. You can have or develop a web app, you use your controls, and then the new API that I just talked about, the gRPC one, that's how you might be able to communicate back and forth, and then you can present results on a browser. Now, this web application that you can run from any modern browser like Chrome or Firefox can also be encapsulated. There are technologies that can, basically contain everything in an application. That application can then be deployed into an OS like Linux or Windows. And from there, you can, directly talk to your tester locally or remotely. And that's on the roadmap. Something I would like to know here. I don't know if you noticed, but the beginning we have on the top left, top right corner, green, now is red. That just means that it's more about longer on the horizon, but it's something I really want to do for TestStand. Let me see. See if there are any questions in the chat. Yes, we don't think dark mode should be just darker. There's some color or some context. Yeah, some highlight. That's kind of, we need to explore. We need to understand what that will be. Okay. Like you are build straight into test and sequence editor as part of the external operator interfaces or in addition to the existing external UIs. Yes. Let me see what else is in here. Okay, those are all the comments. Okay, let me move on to the next slide then. Something we want to have being requested is a TestStand version running in Linux. We are currently exploring what workflows matter to our customers. Having a version of testing in Linux is going to take some time. It's a big effort. But then I don't want to wait to, hey, now we have the TestStand version of Linux, it's ready to go. And then you can use it like, I don't know, sometime in the future. I prefer to have or deliver early value. But what that will be, that's something I need to understand what will for matter to our customers. From previous conversations I have, some of them said, oh, I want to have like what experience I have today in TestStand, like sequence editor running in Linux and be able to deploy and so on and so forth, everything on Linux. Okay, I get that. That's one experience and we want to have that. But as I said, it might take some time. Another approach might be what we get there is, what about you edit or create your test system in TestStand on Windows, but then when you deploy, you have the ability to deploy to a Linux OS. So yes, you have the engine running in Linux. From the previous UI that we mentioned earlier, web-based controls that you can basically encapsulate into an app. Then you have your operator interface that potentially that is web-based that running in Linux locally or remotely. So as I said, this is something that we are evaluating and what those workflows. So as I have more conversations, if you are interested into more details, please let me know. I would like to understand what workflows matter to you. Let me see if there are any questions in here. Okay, cool. Another thing we are looking into is we are considering a potential update to the .NET adapter to be able to call .NET Core libraries. We are also exploring moving the sequence editor to be based on .NET Core. That might facilitate our work later for a sequence editor that works on Linux. There are other considerations. Please talk to me if you have further interest on .NET Core. I would like to understand your needs, definitely. As I said, we have many things on that we want to engage, and it's always helpful to hear from you, hear your needs, so we take that into consideration. Okay, before closing, that's all I have regarding the roadmap. Are there any questions or comments on the TestStand roadmap? That's all I have. So please, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions or put it into on the chat. There is one question. Will the remote Linux work for Linux RT PXIA chassis? Well, as I said, we are exploring the workflows. If this is something that matters, I think we might do. One thing that we also considering is what OS. Today we know, or at least is on the radar, is Ubuntu, Red Hat, Linux, and I think there were other couple more that were on the slide, at least the logos. When are we getting change to expression editor to find matching parentheses? Good point. We have a lot of features that are small in range. I need to sit down with my product owner and look at them and see which one we can execute. But yes, can you elaborate on the question? What is REL version? REL. What is the meaning of the acronym, James Hanat? Oh, Red Hat version. I think so. I think that's one of the things we are considering as part of that work for Linux. Something that I would like to convey here is not just test and moving to Linux. It's also like Linux drivers or how the hardware dynamic has. So testing is one piece. As we mentioned, moving to Linux, we need to kind of move the whole platform to Linux so we can deliver on the value dynamic has. Which specific version of Red Hat? I don't have those details, but as we make progress, I can communicate that. If there is one that you interest, I would like to know. Looking at other notes. All right, later than 0.4. Okay, cool. Will it be possible to retain licensing? Customers frequently ask the cost about runtime version. Yes, I think that's always possible as we see the customer demands. That's something I can take into as a request and yeah, to consider that. I'm not saying we're gonna do it. It's just like I'm gonna ask. That's not be my decision. It might be somebody else's, but it's something that we can consider. I don't know if I miss it. Will ActiveX be replaced soon? Well, we have a replacement and for ActiveX, and that's the web-based controls we mentioned. That's how that's the direction. When you miss soon, I don't think that will happen at least within the short term. And I'm thinking 1 year. We have a lot of work to do, as I mentioned, Python work, the browser support, and so on and so forth. But this is definitely something we want to execute on. As I said, we're working on the gRPC, the new non-com API. And the next thing we want to work on once that's done is on those replacements for ActiveX controls, which are web-based. Yes, exactly. Then we have to make it work on Linux. Our idea is that since they are web-based, our thinking is that that will work on a browser, on Linux, or on Windows, or anything that has a modern browser. And you can, as I mentioned, encapsulate that web application with those web controls into something that you can deploy locally, or you can use, yeah, as a your operator interface. Does gRPC goes into that equation ActiveX replacement too? Yes, that's the direction we want to go. Today, gRPC, the new API doesn't have that common ActiveX interface. That's something that is hidden or not exposed. So if you use that new API, that's something that we thinking we will use. Definitely is the direction for those new web-based controls that they talk to that gRPC API. There is no longer ActiveX in the equation or COM at all. So yes, that's the idea. Let me see, are there any more questions in here? If you're going to gRPC, will you open it up so we can write our own adapters? The idea is that we make this gRPC public, like at least that's the current understanding. Things might change, but it's a Git repository. People might changes. I don't know exactly how that will play with your own adapter, but I think if I don't know the details to kind of say yes or no. Basically, this is something that R&D might want to chip in. Totally different question. Why is it that TestStand doesn't allow space in variable names? Well, that's a good point. I don't have the answer today. That's something I can ask the R&D team. Put it there. Oh, somebody have a Q C chart rule. And number at the beginning of the variables. Okay. Is there something that wasn't in the roadmap that you would like to be? I don't know, something that is something you think is valuable for you. All right, an improved report generator through HTML to PDF might be most of the way there. I haven't played with that yet. Okay, something to consider. I will be curious as what improvements are you looking into? Okay, HTML looks good, but you have to drag that big style sheet around. HTML doesn't look good. HTML. All right, let me know if you have further questions. As I said, that's all I have, and I'm interested on your comments, experiences. I am the test and product manager, and part of my job is to stay or drive the direction of testing in the future, and definitely take into account what customer is asking. You are the ones working with test, and you are the ones that kind of understand better what you're doing in the sense of, oh, I would like for Testan to do this on the other, or doesn't help me here, and all of these things. Improving your workflows, improving Testan is definitely something a must for me. Another thing is, yes, we want to clearly move Testan in the direction that it provides value, it differentiates itself, so it pays by itself, and so on and so forth. How do we get in touch with you to join the testing? Just send me your mail to carlos.gonzalez@i9.com asking for that, and I'm gonna and your interest, and I'm gonna kind of keep that in the list. And as we proceed through testing or to proof of concepts, I'm just gonna relay that to the product owner of the team, so he will be in contact with you so you can try that. Yes. Maybe a small team, but a type of multiple stream step or multiple pass fail tests will be great. I think I've seen this in the test and semiconductor module, Cecilia. If you haven't tried it, I wonder if it's something similar to that. The test and semiconductor module kind of is a specialization, the test stand for the semiconductor environment, but it has abilities or capacities that I think might be interesting to kind of pour back into test stand. That might be one of them. I know they have multi-steps that you can do multi-things, and it's just a step that has a list of several things. So maybe that's in line with that. Yeah, multi-anything step. Yeah, as I mentioned, test and semiconductor module go into that route. And something also that is interesting in this test and semiconductor module is the pin map, where you map your hardware to your device unit test, and then you think about your unit to your device no longer in terms of instrumentation, which is really nice as an abstraction. Installing what will help with that? Okay, you can pick and choose strings, booleans, and numeric. On the same step, there is a multi-numeric. Yes, I wanted that for years. And then there is somebody that sent a link to the forum. Oh, multi-18 step type. Okay, something to I want to look in that later and see. Yeah, the value of that. Okay, I just click on it and I went through it. Yeah, it is an extra module. It is another test and semiconductor module, and there's an additional charge. And it does map your hardware, your device, your test to the instrumentation, as I said. And then when you do the programming, you think about your device in your test, no longer into the instrumentation, which is really nice. There is another capability there that is like multi-site testing or parallel testing that is streamlined. Is more taken into or driven by the semiconductor module. There is once you define a sequence and then you might want to make a parallel, as long as you use what test and semiconductor provides, then it's straightforward. No more parallel testing. It is manually starting, no more programming. But you have to follow those guidelines on the test and semiconductor module. Anyway, let me see if there are more questions. All right, let me know if you need anything else. And as I said, carlos.gonzalez, but with Z, i9.com. And more than happy to hear from you, have one-on-ones or whatever you prefer. I really would like to understand how we can make TestStand better together. And that's kind of, for me, is crucial that we listen to you, our customers. All right, thank you for your time. I think that's all I have. And I see you have more questions. Please reach out to me. And that's about it. Thank you.